John Petersen has had extensive experience at the highest levels of government. He is a decorated veteran of both the Vietnam and Persian Gulf Wars, has worked with the National War College, the Institute for National Security Studies, the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and as a staffer for the National Security Council at the White House. In 2 occasions, he was the runner-up candidate to be Secretary of the Navy. In 1989, Petersen founded the Arlington Institute, a future-oriented research organization where he publishes the Future Edition, an international newsletter which tracks early indicators of significant future trends. Also, every month, through TransitionTalks, speakers address the extraordinary changes happening today, striving to determine their significance for humanity.
In terms of the evolution of the species and individuals, is to try to find another source for authority other than the experts or the institutions or the publications or the what other kind of thing that we, through this period of time, we have used as the basis for deciding what is real and how you make decisions. And that process, it seems to me, is this kind of evolution and driving humanity up from this kind of 3D, linear, logical, kind of scientific kind of notion, up into this larger, multidimensional kind of space to where that connects, by the way, to the larger amount of knowledge and information that exists in the whole kind of universe.
He contends that developing an inner access to information about our reality is now critical.
And you can start to figure out the mechanism, the internal kind of way in which you can access those kind of answers to those kinds of questions. And they don't come through these external kind of ways. This is, by the way, the essential kind of component aspect of this evolution of humanity right now. The question is whether it's an external or an internal kind of orientation, because what you have is 2 divergent kind of flows, and one of them is moderated and defined by technology and all of these kind of notions that say these external kind of tools and processes and everything will tell you. They will integrate directly into your brain. They will send little nanobots up into your brain and connect you to the cloud, and then you'll know. It's this notion that reality and information is in this external kind of space. The other alternative, and this is what I think is the essence of this evolutionary kind of push, is this notion of how do you develop an access and what's essentially who we are and what we are. And that, if you can move yourself into that space and find that space, and what it allows you to do is get these answers, this intuitional kind of flash, you ask this question. I'm convinced, for instance, that at any kind of given decision point in your life, that you always know what the answer is. If you listen to it, it'll always show up. The case you can make is that all of the efforts of technology and technology development are trying with mechanical kind of tools to provide, to allow you to do the things that you can do yourself.
There are also imperatives about what we need to do to get to that clarity of understanding.
You need to clear out the emotional debris you have accumulated during this lifetime. That means that you have to become somebody new, right? You have to get rid of all of the stuff that's been part of this whole human experience in the past that is all constraining, and whether it's religion or whether it's a government or whether it's education or whatever it turns out to be. All of these things are trying to constrain you in some way or another and tell you what you can and cannot do and what's real and what isn't real or true and not true. And what you try, and the essence of what this is all about is how do you kind of burrow your way? How do you get through all of that stuff and emerge so that just the clarity, the essence of who you are kind of emerges and the new human kind of evolves in this thing. is you have to have a sense, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. You got to have a sense and a belief in the larger kind of reality that this is all going to work out and that it's based on love and that this is part of a process and it's intelligent and we're going toward a direction of the emergence of a new human. And it's an exciting, wonderful story, but it's like the birth of a baby and that there's trauma that goes through the birth process, but then it all opens up and it turns into something really wonderful. This is nothing less than an emergence, if you will, of a whole new physics, of a whole new idea of how everything works. And you've been taught all of your life up to this moment about it works like this and it's constrained and there are things you can't do and you can't do and you can't manifest stuff. No, I mean, have you been lucky at winning the lottery? No. So, I mean, and it tells you all these constraints, and what's emerging out of here is a new human that has all these kind of extraordinary kind of capabilities that are emergent, and it's just starting to come out, kind of thing. But it'll be clear that you've figured out some aspect of how to deal with all of this stuff that they haven't. That is the nature of the new human, is the emergent new human. You are a different person. You live in a different kind of space.
As a professional futurist, Petersen is now working with the same processes which he successfully used to help country governments and multinational oil companies to deal with potential future possibilities.
Well, I told you that you can't do projection. You can't do these kind of linear kind of things. And so that the way that you make sense out of the future, and it's a very powerful technique that's been used very, very successfully, is to do scenarios. And scenarios are the whole business of trying to build pictures, integrated, systematic, internally consistent pictures about what alternative worlds might show up. And you build those pictures through a very rigorous kind of multi-day process of trying to say, what is it in particular that's important to you? And what is it that your kind of future hinges on? In the business, we call those critical uncertainties, things that are critical but uncertain. They're essentially hinge issues. So if they go one way, the future goes one direction. If they go the other way, that goes the other direction. And that's where the big changes go. That's where the big potential changes and surprises are. And that's what you've got to really think about, because if you can isolate those and bring those down and understand not only if that change happens, that it will happen, but then build around it a kind of an integrated kind of picture of what a world like that might look like. And the idea is that you build a vision for a desired future, which in the futures business is called a normative scenario. And if you build a vision of what that future is, that new world might look like, and you've spent the time and got all kinds of people together, and as a matter of fact, got millions of people around the world to all participate in it, which is what we're headed for, we're working on, then what you've got is, and Tryon will tell you this, that when you get a whole lot of people that are thinking about the same thing, you get entrainment, and then what happens is that you get what I'm calling a familiar attractor, not a strange attractor from chaos theory, but a familiar one that a lot of people think about, and it attracts and it pulls us forward into this desired world. I believe that we're at this amazing time in history where for the first time humanity has not only the capability and the tools and the knowledge to understand broadly what's happening, which we've never had before, but also the imperative to develop and design our own future, to get a whole new idea about what a new future could be and how it could operate and what the principles and the values and other kinds of things, and begin to hold that up so a whole lot of folks can climb on and kind of embellish it and change it and shape it and help us get from here to there as soon as possible. And so that's what we're working on.